Greetings, welcome back to my channel. Family, I have some breaking news about the P. Diddy sentencing that I would like to share with my subscribers. P. Diddy has apparently been sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison for what is being called a violation of the Mann Act. Right now, the Mann Act was originally called the White Slave Traffic Act. It was established in 1910, named after a particular congressman whose last name is Mann. And what they endeavored to do with this law was criminalize the transporting of persons across state lines for the purpose of sex, or what they called immoral purposes. Now, I happen to think that immoral purposes is a very wide scope, and that could be applied to basically anything. But in this case, it is being alleged that P. Diddy transported persons across state lines to have sex at his Freakoffs. And so, as a result of this, they construed this activity as being a violation of the Mann Act. And I have an honest question I would like to ask my subscribers. Hopefully somebody can give me some enlightenment. But when Hugh Hefner had his famous mansion parties at his mansion, the Playboy mansion, right, there were persons coming to this party from all over the United States. Persons came from multiple different states. Very rarely did the persons live in the same state where the mansion parties were happening, right? And at these mansion parties, there was sex, there was drugs, there was debauchery of the highest order, right? And so if the Mann Act was in existence during the 60s, during the 70s, why wasn't Hugh Hefner accused of violating the Mann Act, right? Because persons traveled to his parties from around the United States. Some of them were his models for the Playboy magazine. And they obviously partook in sex, they partook in the use of illicit drugs, etc. Right? And so what I'm getting at, family, America is ruled by a duplicitous state of affairs. And this verdict is another indication that black people are not going to be treated fairly regardless of their tax bracket. P. Diddy was sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison, and it is unclear if he will receive any credit for the time that he's already served for the duration of the trial and also while awaiting the sentence. Right? I don't believe that this was a fair ruling at all. Now, many persons are putting out this narrative that if you support P. Diddy, that you don't care about violence against women or exploitation of women, and that somehow you are a heartless individual. And family, I don't believe that persons who disagree with this verdict are persons that are heartless with respect to the plight of women. I believe persons are calling out the obvious duplicity that has influenced this trial. Recently, P. Diddy, prior to the sentencing, he attempted to have a retrial because he rightly pointed out that the various charges that he was charged with during the trial were prejudicial towards the ultimate outcome of these proceedings. Because obviously, if he's being charged with racketeering, human trafficking, RICO, the Mann Act, etc., obviously this will paint a particular picture of him as an individual, and it will also give a certain character to the trial. And so what he and his lawyers were trying to do as recently as 2 days ago, 3 days ago, they were trying to have a retrial, and the basis of this retrial was to have a separation of these charges from the original indictment. right? In the original indictment, with the charges that they put together, this will paint a particular picture of P. Diddy, and this will give a particular narrative to the public that he is some kind of cold, calculating, exploitative individual. And I don't believe that this was the case. Ultimately, he was exonerated of the more weighty charges, racketeering, human trafficking, etc. But they still managed to actually find him guilty of the Mann Act, right? And family, I would like to say that if P. Diddy is sentenced to 4 years for engaging in the trafficking of persons, or actually for flying persons out to his various locations for the Freakoffs, shouldn't Cassie Ventura also be guilty of the Mann Act? During the trial, it was proven that Cassie Ventura was not some helpless and unwitting victim. Cassie Ventura actively participated in the Freakoffs. She actively participated in the selecting of individuals who would travel there to have sex with her in particular. So P. Diddy did not, as they say, put a gun to her head and say, you're going to have sex with this person, you're going to have sex with that person. Cassie actually selected individuals to come to the party. Cassie selected the Punisher, right? And so even though his name, the nickname that they gave this person is egregious, it sounds crazy, but Cassie selected the person who they called the Punisher to come to the party and do just that. And so to me, this seems like a travesty of justice. To me, this seems like P. Diddy was made a scapegoat in this situation, and all of the other participants in this activity were left scot-free. All right. Even the civil judgment that Cassie Ventura received against P. Diddy, the millions that she was paid as a result of her quote-unquote duress, should have been left out of the court proceedings. But even that situation that was resolved in a civil case still was used to paint a narrative of P. Diddy. And I think this was what was unfair, and this is what was the lawyer's intention with a retrial. They were trying to separate this Mann Act charge from all of the other incidents that they trumped together to paint this picture, right? And so all I would like to say, family, I don't think that the ruling was a fair ruling. I don't think P. Diddy should have received jail time. I think he could have had community service. I think he could have had counseling. I think he could have been placed on a restrictive probation, not allowed to travel outside of a particular state. He could have been monitored by persons appointed by the court so that he wouldn't have to actually serve any more jail time. Because if he is guilty, Cassie Ventura also was guilty. All of the text messages prove this. She was an active participant in selecting persons who would eventually travel across state lines for these freak-offs or for these sexual encounters. Okay, family? So I just want to do away with this perception